take a bit of a break from all the digital painting stuff. And yeah, I'm going to show some of the process of like designing a new track concept for Chroma Circuit. And this is sort of like a free-form brainstorm session. I invite people in chat to give me ideas or give me feedback while I'm working. It's really fun to riff off of people's suggestions. And so, yeah, we get started. And yeah, let's see here. So, um, I could show some, I could start looking at some reference, but I think that my visual library here is probably seated. So, so yeah, I'm just going to start drawing. So I have a vague concept of what I want to do. And it is going to be called the juicery. And um, so the idea is that you're racing along this track with this enormous, like, tree-like form, and I want the tree to be kind of this, like a factory. It's producing these large, very strange-looking fruits, these like berries, and it's just like dropping these berries on the track, and the track is actually sort of like a conveyor belt. So you're starting near the top of this tree and you're racing partially along this track, and as you go down the track more fruits fall onto the track, and so you actually have to try to avoid the fruits as you're going down the track. So um, I have some thoughts on how this might work, but I only have like a vague idea of how the tree could look. I had this thing I wanted it to look fragmented, where each fragment of the tree is like it's an assembler. It's like a general purpose assembly machine. If you've ever, played a game like Factorio or something, you've got these kind of universal assemblers, or it's like a function box in node-based programming, or and but the cool thing about these assemblers is that they look kind of like shards. And I actually have a way I want to make these in VR. There's definitely a dance between visual and technique and world building in this for this track. And so sometimes you start with um, with something that you just know looks cool, and you find a world and a story that fits it. Other times it's the other way around. Certainly in the past, especially when I was a much less experienced designer, I was definitely far on the other side, where I was much more concerned about function first, and form would always follow that. But I have definitely been drifting more into rule of cool, especially for this game. It's really good, I think, as a designer to be able to do both. Humans are not like perfectly functional machines. Um, so, so yeah, so this is going to be maybe part of the tree trunk. I'm thinking, I could go ahead and actually go in and maybe color code some of this. Normally, I'd put colors on a separate layer, but this is just brainstorming. This is basically replacing one of those four-color clicker pens that I carry basically everywhere with me, like one of these guys. Um, and so. Um, I found that layers often get in the way of productivity when it comes to design sketching. I had to learn this the hard way. I'd spent so many times trying to do this like late binding approach. Um, Here I'm having like different wires going into the tree. These are going to be inputs. I was thinking about making these. Maybe they could be point clouds or something because they'd be a bit high poly for the game. I'm still. Uh, Actually, I have a different technique for how these could be visualized. So, anyways, um, yeah, the whole time while I'm designing this, I'm thinking about implementation as well. It can sometimes slow down the world building brainstorm process. I mean, there's definitely different schools of thought on that. Like you could just completely neglect implementation at all while working with the concept, and then figure out how to revise the idea later. I actually kind of enjoy thinking about implementation. So this is pretty abstract looking right now. Doesn't definitely doesn't look like a tree, partially because it's only a very small part of the tree. I think I want this to be near the base, so I'm going to move it down a bit. Um, so let's see here. Um, maybe I want it to look definitely asymmetrical. I want it to be very clear that there are different raw materials coming in to it through its roots. And the players are going to be spending time in like the tree tops and maybe down in the roots. I don't know if they'll go all the way down into the roots. That's something that I will probably figure out when I map this track out in VR. Right now, I'm just trying to get some kind of key angles of this, sort of like hero angles. Um, things that, let's see here. I'm just going to do a quick tech check and make sure that the stream is being mirrored to Facebook and Twitter. I found sometimes I need to restart it. Yep, looks like everything's good. Sweet. So yeah, no matter what platform you're on, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, you should be able to leave comments, and I will be able to see them in a universal chat. Um, I'm actually not 100% sure about Twitter. I'm still a little new to this multi-streaming thing. But yeah, so back to the tree. So, my immediate thought, and boy, maybe I will actually make a new layer here. Um, my immediate thought, I'm gonna color code the track. The track's gonna be green. Is that maybe you could start on the top and kind of spiral around the tree, but that's always sort of a go-to first idea for a track design. The problem with spirals is that you have people turning the same direction. So it's like near you. The whole point is you want to be able to like be moving that stick in different directions in a novel and interesting and engaging way. And so the spiral is kind of a mistake. I want there to be two main components to this track. There's going to be the juicery part. I'll just put a J here. And I think it'd be interesting to actually have this be like a kind of a long, thin thing. Uh, and there aren't very many rectangles in this world. But I actually think it'd be interesting to have something that's at least rectanguloid. Let's put it that way. Maybe I can Maybe I could make it like eliminate some of those pure 90-degree angles, but I think it's an interesting way to go. It is this is going to be players are going to be entering here, and this is where the actual juicing of the berries happens. And they'll go around and come back out. I think from a storytelling perspective, I think it's kind of fun to come in and see where you're going to be coming out again. But where you're coming out is there's going to be some options of how to come out. Good games are made of interesting decisions, and I want people to kind of spur of the moment, try to decide what is best for them based on what resources they have at the time. And it's a balance. You don't want to give people too many decisions because you might end up splitting up the pack. And the game is more fun when the pack is closer together. But if everybody is just, only has one choice all the time, that's not as fun either. So there's a balance for sure. And this is the place where the actual berries will get juiced, and then the main tree trunk, I think is going to be over here somewhere. And I'm going to go ahead and move this down. As much as I love the feeling of precision and look I get with paper, it is really, really, really nice to be able to to move stuff around. My preference is actually for infinite canvas. And if Procreate ever got infinite canvas, that would be amazing. Um, but yeah, so I think the main nexus of the tree. Let's make it simple. Put it over here, maybe something like that. So players are going into the juice tree at the bottom, and they have to be going up some kind of maybe a ramp system. So this is, I'll just turn it from a map to sort of a perspective view. They're coming in at the bottom, and they're coming out the bottom. They're coming out this way at the top, and they're probably going to be able to gain some altitude if they come up around here until they hit the tree branches. So I think I'm going to move the tree over a bit, again, to, now the interesting thing about this tree is it's going to be a pretty irregular tree. This is not a world tree of any kind. So I, yeah, see, once again, I'm running out of room. Um, what I typically like to do is just, while Procreate doesn't have infinite canvas, I can just keep making the canvas bigger. And so there is a limit, believe me, I've hit it. But for this stream, I'll be careful. All right. So yeah, move the tree over here. Nice thing about the tree is that depending on what's fun with the track, I can move the branches around. Because what I want to have is where the track is catching a lot of the fruits and the branches. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. First of all, I like the idea that the tree is actually changing. In Synthara, structures change pretty frequently. And what I want to have is like where the branches might grow outward, you might get more fruit on one branch than another. The track has to adapt to catch the most berries. So what you could have is maybe berry catching basin areas that feed berries into the track. So I'm just like gonna block some of those in here and make my lines a little bit smaller. Um, and yeah, hopefully I am zoomed in enough to show what's going on here. I know this is very messy right now. I will definitely refine things as I go. Um, So, you might have these basins that are actually, quite wide and almost touching. They're catching the berries. Maybe there's even webbing between the basins. I just don't want to block off too much of the negative space around the track with basins. That's going to make everything feel cramped and claustrophobic. Maybe the tree itself is aware of where the conveyor is. Um, Oh, actually, I remember now. There was this one tree at a botanical garden, and I cannot remember the name, but it's sort of like a fig tree. Um, Here, I'm going to share my PC real quick. It's like tree with fruits along branches. It's actual like branches, and there were like these black fruits that were like lining it. I'd have to dig into my archives. I'm not uh I'm not doing a very good job of searching. They're like these black round fruits. If anybody in chat knows what I'm talking about, please let me know. Um, Now I could just not look this up. I'm mainly looking this up because it's cool. But if I were working alone, and I didn't find it immediately, I probably wouldn't bother. It was a little bit like this. They were actually growing directly along like the shaft of the branch rather than like the ends of the branches, which is a very very neat. and I want to play with that motif with this tree. It's producing these things that uh, I find it actually amusing. I've decided that in the game lore, nobody knows exactly what the juice is. It definitely seems like it's special, and each berry maybe even looks different, and they look really interesting. And clearly people are interested in juicing them and distributing the juice, but what is the juice? Maybe the berries are sort of like they're like water balloons and they just kind of fill up. But then the question with that is then why doesn't the tree just directly pipe the liquid out? Why does it need to package it in these juice berries? There's gonna be some open questions here. I'm still deciding just how many of them I want to answer. I mean, it is a racing game, and it's like it's people aren't exactly playing it for deep lore, but I really can't help myself when it comes to the lore because I'm pulling from a world I've been working on for a long time, and I find that thinking about the lore helps me to design. Uh, so yeah, once again, these are the catch basins. Maybe they're not even rounds. Just I tend to draw circles as like it's like a default placeholder for a volume, a form, and then I just will modify it later. So, anyways, but this right here is the actual racing line. So, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my maybe a red color this time, and you're actually racing along this road right here, and so coming so you're starting near the top, so maybe right here is kind of like peak height. That's what I'm thinking. You'd have to go up, 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 all through this part of the track, and then through this part, down, 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 down. And so let's see here. I could do an interesting loop to loop around a tree branch. I could have multiple trees. I have been trying to decide on the multiple tree thing, and that's something that may require me stepping into VR to see if like one tree feels like enough content. One way to make it feel like enough content is, ooh, I have an idea. The roots of the tree are sending up shoots. No, not roots. You have the input roots. Oh, I know. You've got branches that curl up from below. Okay, I think I'm starting to get a better idea of this tree. So I'm gonna go back to black, classic black here. Um, I have this kind of a fountain tree motif that has almost become it's almost like a symbol of my consciousness at this point. But I kind of literally see this in my mind's eye when I'm thinking about things, thoughts, self, all that. It's kind of a tree that loops on itself. And I wonder if I can actually play with that motif. It's almost like a world tree. I'm thinking about some way to maybe make this my next logo. I've been playing with redesigning the Zernworks logo, and I'm open to it. But for now it's just the hero asset in a Chroma circuit track. Um, so you've got in this tree, you've got roots that go travel back to the world, and so the if I were to map the resources out, let's do it like blue. Maybe you've got water coming in up here, and you've got some kind of weird polymer coming in up here, and the juicery's got its own distribution system there. It might have its own uh, equivalent to these roots where it's actually, flushing everything out again, but focuses on the tree. So, so yeah, so I've got these different shards in the tree, and the shards represent, the inputs come in to these rather large shards in the bottom, and that's sort of like those shards are like where stuff is being refined. And I like the idea that they maybe get finer and finer, and maybe the shapes get a little more varied as you get to the tips of the branches. Oh, I know. Maybe the tippy tips of the branches, the tips that the players aren't able to race around, those are the solar panels. So a lot of a lot of manufacturing mechanical trees in this world that have like these sort of solar panel leaves. So maybe the player doesn't ever go high enough to go through the solar leaves, although they would look kind of cool. Um, have to think about that. One of the challenges with this type of design is that I also have to consider things like uh, too much of an altitude shift can be bad for gameplay. Um, Kind of does weird stuff with the camera, and it's I personally think it's a little disorienting, and you can't fully see the vista of the track as well because you're either looking way up into the sky, way down onto the ground. It actually makes my job is like putting all these levels out. It makes that harder. Um, and so let's say these are the solar leaves. In the middle of the tree, this part is where the fruits are actually being made. And so if I go with the whole thing where the fruits are along the branches, we could say that they're this. Um, so right now I'm just kind of being playful. I'm open to like new placements of things. For example, maybe the tree branch is actually the tree branch is actually maybe a conveyor belt, and I mean maybe. Let me just entertain that idea for a second. So maybe it's like a radial conveyor belt where the inner core of the tree you actually have some kind of conveyor going along the length of the branch. But then why would you do it that way? Why wouldn't you just make it like a normal factory unless this tree is actually like on a more granular level growing these fruits? If the fruits are all moving along the branches, then you just make everything more parallel, it's more compact. Of course, space is not that much of an issue in this world. People value novelty and aesthetics more than raw efficiency because it is a world of, in some ways, material abundance. And so it could be that like the idea of just trying to maximize design for efficiency is just kind of silly. And I've thought a lot about it. Kind of depends on which era you're in of this world, but right now, this era, the people would not be trying to maximize efficiency, and it's more about novelty. So, um, it can actually make in some ways it's a nice thing for as a designer. In other ways, can make things kind of intimidating because there's just this normally you could use function and efficiency as a sort of design constraint, and that constraint can actually liberate you. It's like it forces you to think laterally in ways you normally wouldn't, and so yeah. So how about I'm gonna make a copy of this tree here, and okay, so now we're getting to a point where I should probably crop it. So, well, the reverse of what cropping is. What I tend to do when I brainstorm is to start from a center and work outward, and then move things around as I need. I find that that's kind of like the most fluid and organic way to design. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with that. So, um, and move this tree away. And see, by working on the same layer, even though I can't separate colors, boy, is that nice, because I used to be like, well, I'll put this tree on this layer, and I'll put this map on that layer, and this side view tray on another layer. And then inevitably I bounce back and forth, because when you're brainstorming, you're like, okay, let's make solar panel leaves, and like you realize that there's a certain design paradigm that works well, and then you want to reflect that on the top view. And guess what? You have to go into your layers panel and change it. And it's so easy when you're in a flow state to just forget to change layers. And inevitably, I'd have to go in and clean everything up. And so, yeah, that's definitely a piece of advice I have for like digital brainstorming. So let's see here. The nice thing now is that I can go in and I can duplicate this. I'm going to move it. And now I can play with design variations. So that's another really nice thing. When I used to work on paper, I would often do partial variations, and then because you fix it in post, right? And let's see, 1 second. I think I'll just merge this down. And so I would, like, for example, if I was doing a variation where I was changing one of the tree branches, I would just draw that branch, and then in Photoshop, I have to isolate all the line work and like redo it, and then just copy and paste the original one, and then it's basically grafting. Just kind of funny because right now I'm designing what looks like a very grafted tree. So the whole reason I did that duplication was is I wanted to play the standard branching technique. And so if each and every one of these fruits looks different, maybe it's because something critical is happening at these juncture points, at these branch points. And there is a divergence in design, and the fruit that's produced at the end of this branch is going to be fundamentally different than the fruit that's at this branch. And maybe there's a kind of like a recipe. So the recipe would be like, uh, this node, you're moving resources up this trunk, and you're assembling them slowly. Maybe it's almost like there's like a series of filters, or it's like very, very small assemblers, since there's like a lot of microbots in this world. And um, and yeah, so Puzzlarium on Twitch says maybe different flavors of nanobots. Yeah, exactly. It's like you could have, oh yeah, flavors. That's actually a good way to put it, since they are fruits. For all we know, this is just really delicious juice. Like it may told it seems like it might have some arcane industrial purpose, or maybe some kind of entertainment purpose, but it could just be like really good, and all these berries are different. But then the question is, why are they getting juiced in the juicery where they're getting combined? If this tree is doing all this different stuff, maybe the juicery is separating out different fruits. So here's the problem. I've got a bit of a resource constraint. Like I have to consider making all this stuff in Unreal Engine in a way that you can race on over the internet with multiple people, and be able to have a moderate gaming PC run it at 60 frames a second. If I had lots of mechanisms that were different, showing how all the berries were getting separated, that would be great. But I could kind of black boxify it. I could have it where they go into the juicery and you see some of them splitting off, maybe a standard conveyor belt, and you see some of the ones that split off getting juiced, but you don't see what happens to the other ones. So for all the player knows, they're getting split off further. They're getting pureed. They're getting, who knows what's happening to the rest of them. So, and who knows, maybe these berries carry out a life cycle where they need to be their own separate entity in the beginning, but when they become part of the juice, they like merge and become one with the with the juice, and that's just a part of their cycle. Their So anyways, so yeah, just the act of drawing this has helped to give me these ideas. I'm definitely a visual thinker, and seeing something in front of me, I can riff off of visuals. So you've got these multiple kind of branching berries, but as you can see, you've got a problem. If this berry drops, this berry is basically an assembler at this point. If this berry drops, then all the whole branch is dropping with it. So that actually doesn't work. You have to have it so that there's a very fundamentally different piece than something that looks like a berry on the juncture points. And the berries are, like this. If this was a berry, how is it going to drop? I think the berries all have to be able to be on their own little stem. They could be hanging off the like a bigger branch, but I can't have them where they have basically, it's sort of like in nodes. You've got parent nodes and like child nodes, and I don't think that any of these berries should have child nodes. So yep, I'm going to pinch off that and set that as a constraint. Um, so yeah, I want this to be almost like a weeping willow. Like the berries go pretty far down, and so players are racing underneath these, and so yeah, so maybe the tree rather than having too many here. I mean, maybe they're falling and they're just falling in another catch basin that the players never race on, and you've got multiple catch basins. I'm trying to think about waste here. How much of a Oh, maybe the catch basins selectively catch berries based on which ones they want to juice, and they let the other ones just drop, and some kind of you know parasitic nanobot type of colony basically just not parasitic, just a scavenging nanobot colony just eats whatever drops off the tree. Like we don't have to have 100% efficiency here. So yeah, Puzzlarium asks, what do robots consider fine dining? Maybe robots want to know what good taste tastes like, so they want to try to eat food. I mean, that's the thing is you could have sensors for a lot of this stuff, and maybe these berries are there's something that a human maybe couldn't even taste. They don't work with like a human taste bud. But this could very well be just like a candy factory for like AI entities, which is kind of a funny idea. Yeah, I like that. Um, oh boy. So let's see here. Um, so anyway, so the track, let's say the track is like here. And once again, I'll just go ahead and like make the track a different color, maybe the dark green. Uh, It's kind of hard to get outside of the green, blue, red paradigm. I've actually had a coding system for what colors meant what in the past. Um, I found it was useful in some situations, but it could often like slow me down. So let's think about the actual profile of this track here. Um, Maybe racers can also race on some of the basins as well. Do you give people context as to why there would actually be a racetrack at a thing that has some kind of industrial purpose? This is at a World's Fair, and the racetrack kind of weaves through the entire thing. It's like that kind of like that if you guys have ever seen like parasitic plants that kind of like these strangle plants that kind of grow through everything, the track kind of weaves in through everything, and it is an attraction of this expo as well. So um, the idea is that periodically people will retrofit different creative and industrial places. It's almost like hosting the Olympics or something, and this happens to be one of the places. So simultaneously, the people or the AIs behind the tree can show off, and so yeah, so you'll notice that it's concave here, and if I were to do a cross section, which I could do right here, um, I don't want it to be too deep. But maybe it can be very shallow. Just, actually, yes, it should be shallow. I have learned the hard way. When I did some early track design, I was playing around a lot with concave and convex profiles. Convex is not bad, but the problem with concave is it greatly limits the player's vision of anything outside the track. Um, Intuitively, this makes sense, but I think that um, I certainly underestimated the amount of content obscuring that having a concave track made. So probably no more than this, and I kind of even like the idea of almost like a flat side rather than it being like a bowl. Um, so players are going to be like here little cars, probably about this big. Um, and then the berries. Uh, I keep calling them berries. I mean, if they're kind from a tree, I guess they're technically fruits, right? Like, but the berries gonna be kind of big. Um, I want this to feel like a kind of like a Mario Kart obstacle. Um, yeah, something like that. Also, I'm noticing I don't actually have to go as big as I did with some of these other drawings. I'm gonna do a consolidation pass here. Um, Save some space. I found for brainstorming, it's better to keep more things, as many things on the page as you can, because it allows for better cross pollination of ideas. Um, so, another thing that I often do is jump around. So, I'm gonna go in back into this tree and play around once again with the idea of like the fruit conveyor belt where they all just get deposited, plopped right above the track. Um, I don't know. It's a weaker idea. I could make it look interesting, but I'm just trying to think of hmm. I'm trying to think of a way to still show that there are branching manufacturing decisions happen while still having less branches with more fruit per branch. I'm gonna revisit this after I do another angle of the cars going through everything. So right now, there's definitely a balance to hold between jumping around because it does help to like keep it's sort of I see jumping around, it's almost like stirring the pot. Um, and you do want to do that. But if you do that too much, you can also lose flow and lose focus. And I've definitely had that happen when streaming, where I jump around a lot, and I think part of it is I'm trying to keep it like interesting and entertaining for the people watching. But then I realize that like I probably would have gotten more done if I just kind of focused a little more. The reason I added depth to this road is not as much to make it look pretty as it is to communicate to viewers, whether they be clients or myself in this case, like what the kind of the directionality of things. Because all of a sudden that this road is going downward, that players have gravity on their side, and all these fruits are going to be kind of rolling down. I'm kind of picturing something that would be almost like bumper bowling or something, where you've got bumpers that maybe the fruits go into troughs. So eventually the fruits you would have a problem where you get a lot of clogging by the end of the track. And what's going to happen if you get too much clogging, so like let's draw out what like too much clogging would look like here. You get too much clogging where they're actually like there's like multiple rows of them. That'd be bad because all of a sudden players can't cross over the track. So what I'd like to see happen is this kind of decision making where players are weaving, let's use yellow here, between the different fruits. And they're doing this to hit universal boost pads or to hit paint pickups. There is some kind of an incentive. There's a game incentive for them to go to the other side. If all of a sudden they get down here where there's just way too many fruits, then they're going to be stuck on one side. And that's not the worst thing. It kind of implies that it gives players who have played this track before an advantage because they know there's going to be a clog up and they know that they're going to have to pick a side because whatever side they pick might affect when they actually get into the juicery building, what side they're on. So what I'm thinking is I can just avoid the clogging by allowing, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could have a hole in the center of the track that the berries, or I keep saying berries, fruits, all fall into. And so you could just kind of watch them as a player as you're going by. You can watch them fall in, and then the road kind of converges around that hole, and it's all back to one unified thing again. And that might be the most elegant way to do it because um, as long as you can maybe see the tube that the berries have all gone into, maybe the tube kind of zips around, it goes underneath the track, and then it you can see it along the side. So you're racing and you're racing right along the berry tube. And I think I'm going to constrict the track a bit here too. The idea being that maybe the berries are pooling. I wonder if you would have any like little assembler arms or something that's dividing them, or if they're all just kind of a universal track. Kind of makes me think a bit of like a gumball machine or something. Um, but yeah, so now, somewhere in here, you know what? I want to give people, they're going to have a bunch of weavy turns here. I want to give them a bit of a flat area right before they go into the building. That way, if they want to use up a boost, this could be a highly contested paint area right here. So for those of you unaware of Chroma Circuit, it is a racing game where you can basically make your own boost pads. You're painting the track, and the paint acts as a boost. And so I want to give people places where they can, if you have a wider place, then you've got more places to paint. If a narrower place, it might be a more opportune place to paint, but it means that other racers can paint over your paint. So some players might have different strategies. They might be like, I don't want to come back the next lap and realize that most likely someone's covered up my paint. So they will paint in the weedy turn areas. And if they're better at turning, then they're able to, what color should I make boost pads here? Make them lime green here. We also have universal boost pads that boost zones, but I don't have to go into all of the game mechanics now. I wanna leave some surprises for um, for players who are actually playing the game. But I do really like talking about sort of the way to try to mesh both visuals and game mechanics. It's a very fun headspace to be in. Um, so, so yeah, so So yeah, I could start doing a diagram of like maybe what it looks like. Maybe not even a diagram, maybe just a player focused view of what it actually looks like inside the juicery part. What does the centrifuge? Yeah, you could have centrifuges. Looks like on Twitch, Puzzlarium said they're separators and centrifuges. Yeah, I think that the separators and centrifuges. I've been heading in that direction because it's just a lot easier to pull off. Like, I don't have a lot of, well, like, I just don't have the resources to do really cool mechanical animations of things that aren't directly related to the gameplay. And so centrifuges. I actually toured an orange juice factory before. My grandfather's neighbor worked at an orange juice factory, and it's been a while, but I was a teenager, and he gave us a private tour, and my impression of it was, well, I know why they don't have a public tour of this place. Is actually there's not a whole lot to look at. Um, an orange juice factory basically looks like, I'll just draw a quick drawing of it here. Um, it's got a bunch of these like centrifuge things, or just holding tanks. You just, rather than having a whole bunch of like, mashers and all kinds of like mechanical stuff. Well, what the orange juice factories do now is they basically just use enzymes to dissolve the oranges. Which is why like most store-bought orange juice is kind of bitter, is that you're eating a liquefied version of the peel. And so you could have something similar here, where you have chemicals that are dissolving the berries. And what I'm thinking here with this factory, the more I think about it, is you could ask, why don't you just have a separate tree that, or some kind of something that looks like it's part of the same system to juice them. I actually like the idea that the entities that are juicing these things are different than the entities that made the tree. Now that could be a symbiotic relationship. In this world, in this era of this world, it most likely is. Um, but maybe the juicery, rather than being another Spectre AI entity, is actually just made by humans. So you have things like catwalks. Like, maybe I should make a quick list here of oh, whoa. I have a separate brush for writing. My You've got humans, so you can have catwalks, you can have centrifuges. You have I still want to have some kind of a masher. I think just having a simple, right near the beginning where the track comes into the juicer, you've got something that's moving. Um, Maybe a separator. Yeah, because I want to have something where they're branching. So I'm not making any guarantees that all of these will be in this level. But Let me think of some other stuff that the catwalks indicate that there's definitely humans in it at some point. They are maintaining it. It is also a really, really good thing for scale. So, I think that from a functionality point of view, like that's something, if I want to show that humans are doing it. Another thing that would show that humans have it are just lights. Like unless there are windows in this place, which there could be, there needs to be like some kind of a lighting system. So I'm going to group that with like human evidence, almost like a human evidence box here. Um, Signs. See, because as I see it, the humans in this world, their tech is different, but they're sort of at a level that humans are today. This is far in the future, and there's been regression and rebuilding, and the humans have learned to work in kind of a symbiotic relationship with the AI entities that are around. But the humans can still own their own stuff technically. They often take material resources from the AIs or specters, but they can have their own stuff. The AIs actually like it when humans have their own stuff because it's novel and interesting to observe, and that's what the specters really want and like. Um, so um, so yeah, back to this factory. What are some other signs that humans would use it? Because the humans in even in a modern day, but to the exception of some factories, they still need human, even if it's an autonomous factory, you still need humans to maintain it. And so like there's that like whole lights out factory idea, which is very cool, but I think I'm just gonna keep this list as is. I'm trying to think of something that would be like can anyone in chat think of like obvious evidences that humans are touching the inside of this building besides signs, lighting, catwalks? Uh, Signs, lighting, catwalks. I don't want to actually depict any humans. For one thing, I see the humans is only going in there occasionally. On Twitch, Puzzler says footprints. Yeah, you could have footprints. The problem is that you're gonna be zooming by this stuff pretty quick. I don't think anybody's going to see footprints. That is true. I think these are probably good enough. I don't want to make my job. Um, I already put in lighting system. Um, I'm getting a suggestion in chat from for lights. Um, so yeah, I think ups, UPS, universal power supply. Uh, oops. Oh, oops. Okay, gotcha. Um. All right. So, why is my brush? Trying to remember. I remapped my brush on my little controller here. I should be able to change my brush out. Maybe not. Thought I did that. Um, I'm operating on not enough sleep tonight. Um, Events of humans, human tools, places that store human personal effects. I'm reading chat right now. Places for humans to eat. Yeah, that's a thought. As maybe some tables in the background. Yeah, okay. I'll go ahead and write those in here. Um, because yeah, I kind of like the idea of like tables and maybe some tools. The thing is that people are gonna be zooming by too fast, I think, to see tools. But we'll say tables. I like the idea of a place to eat. Oh, doors. Yeah, good one. Doors. Then you like an open tool. Yeah, boy, I'm trying to think like if I were playing Mario Kart, um, like would an open toolbox be something that I even notice? I suppose if I went off road and bumped into something. I was actually examining the off road areas in Mario Kart 8 recently, and like the flower props are actually quite large. Um, oh, a mech suit. That's a good idea. Forklift for other machinery. I wanted to make this look, yeah, maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't want to show anyone operating it, but yeah, like a forklift. That's good too. Oh, rats. I'm getting the weird bug where my brush switcher toggle it switches to the wrong thing. I have to turn off. It's a little custom Bluetooth device. It's a little Arduino thing, but it has its quirks. Um, all right, let's see if it works now. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's. You know what's funny is that this thing it runs off of an NRF52 chip, Adafruit NRF52, and I was really worried that the Bluetooth would be really unreliable. This device is more reliable than most of the out of the box factory like devices I have. Like it just connects so reliably. I only occasionally have that one bug, and I don't even think that's a Bluetooth thing. I think it's like just some kind of like a software thing. So on Facebook, Bill Masuku says, "Yo, hello, Bill. Nice to have you in here. Yeah, thanks. Let me know if you have any questions or ideas as I continue to work on this concept. It's kind of a free form brainstorm. I'll probably take a lot of this stuff and hop into VR later and try to actually block out the actual layout of this thing in space. But for right now, I'm just kind of figuring out the different components. So um, I am. Oh, my BRB sign is 1 second here. I am trying to set a BRB message and I don't. Oh, there it is. All right. Um, all right. I will be back, guys. All right. Uh, I am back. Um, all right. So chat has asked stuff since I was gone. So um, on Twitch, any Easter egg references to magic cards you drew? Ah, that's an interesting question. Well, if it was one, it would have to be Manifold, because that's the one I'm most known for. And I could put a box that has the character of Manifold. I'm planning to hide like secrets, and there's like a hub world. Um, and so there's definitely going to be little neat things to discover. And I would probably like clear it with with wizards first if it was like too close to mana vault, but that's an interesting idea. I hadn't actually thought of doing that, but yeah. And then on Facebook, Bill Masuku asks, what do you typically do? Comics, animation, illustrations, concept art? So before working on this game project, it was a combination of illustration and concept art. I'm not that into sequential storytelling comics. I'm more into like the design side of things. I could send you a link to my website, and you can check out some of the different types of design work I've done. Um, and let's see, that was in Facebook. I have to go into Facebook to put that link in. Um, all right. Um, So yeah, I've got that link for you there. I've done a little bit of everything. I've had especially early in my career, I had this pathological drive towards novelty, and I've done illustration and design work for some game stuff, advertising. I've done medical illustration. I did theme park design. I did illustration in the case of tabletop games, things like Magic the Gathering, and I also did a fair number of selling art directly at events. And so, um, what am I doing here? Yeah, I'm I'm getting back into the flow here, and I took my break. So yeah, but yeah, so back to, oh yeah, and 123, Philip G says, like, is there a Zerngable verse? Um, yes, there is actually. I I wouldn't say it's like a complete all-encompassing for umbrella for everything I do, but it's called Synthara, and it is a far future place where humans and AIs live in symbiosis. At least this particular era they do, and the world is a very varied place. It's a very dynamic because a lot of the architecture and objects are made out of this kind of smart matter, this matter that can reform itself. There's a lot of weird swarm intelligences in it. There's a lot of kind of like it's sort of like an artificial biosphere of sorts. Um, and this particular corner of what you call the Zergiverse. Actually, I kind of like they did Zergiverse as a word. It's kind of funny. Um, um, but uh, but yeah, that's this corner of it is kind of like a World's Fair type of a setting. So it's a great way to show off aspects of the Slingerverse because it's this confluence of different groups with different cultures and technologies, and it's kind of I wanted to have the same spirit of exchange of ideas, entertainment, and friendly competition. And so that's I feel like that kind of environment fits well with this kind of a racing game. So hopefully that answers your question. Um, what am I doing right now? I keep panning around. I do this thing where I just kind of like look at it from different zooms and angles. Oh yeah, I was gonna play around with the tree again. Um, and what am I doing with this separate layer? I should not be doing a separate layer. I wanted to play around. I'll go with this tree. Um, I have to kind of catch myself making new layers, partially because if I do client work, I am more inclined to make layers for the purpose of being able to apply feedback. But at this early stage, it's actually pretty rare that I've actually like one. Uh, I could work on the factory juicer part. Yeah, I could also design the leaves. I kind of have some ideas for the leaves, but right now I wanted to design the I wanted to have some branches that actually came out of the tree in this like underhanded way. Like rather than arcing over, they actually arc and then curl like this. And so they actually form these natural tunnels for the road. So as you're racing through, you've got, you've got the fruits coming off of these branches, and and then you've got, a road coming through here. I'll go ahead and color that road, that dark green color. Um, yeah, something like I like going for these nice sweepy curves here. Um, I also want parts of the road to not be concave. I think it'd be kind of boring for that to always be concave. And I'm trying to think of a design reason why players would actually want like why maybe the track has oh, maybe it starts off concave, but it gets convex after a separator. The separator's here, and then all of a sudden you're funneling them No, that doesn't make any sense. Honestly, like I should probably be trying to keep the track flat in a lot of places, and then just put barriers up. We finally got a better barrier system working in the game, which is very great because the game uses kind of an unconventional physics system, and we had this problem with the car kept flying over flying over the railings. Well, it wasn't flying over them; it was crawling up them. It really likes to crawl up walls, and so if I have these barriers, I can now prevent the car from crawling up them, which is nice. Um, So maybe I have barriers that are no longer a 90-degree angle, but it's sort of these barriers are the funnels that help to like bring the fruit in. So the actual track part, is here, is this flat part. Um, and then oh yeah, that makes more sense. The track starts out flat and then it slowly becomes more concave as you get closer and closer to the juicery. And that way players have like a more varied experience. And I want to have a few sharper turns here. And the question is like, do you have a sharper turn because there's something big in the way? It could be. I personally kind of like the idea of this being more of an orchard than a single tree. You've got one big hero tree that is the biggest one, but maybe you've got some other trees. Because then that would be something that the road like thematically could like wrap and curl around. And I gotta change my color again. Maybe you can have a smaller tree here. I may nix the smaller tree thing. I'm not sure yet. See, if I make multiple trees, that's all of a sudden going to open up the question of do I try to generate these procedurally? And there's sort of a limit where if you do something that's like if you do something where you only have to do it a few times, then the time it takes to set up the procedural nodes is probably not worth it. Um, oh, I just did something with the tree that was just part of like my natural form language, but I rather like. It's like these kind of points of these bulge points here. They're almost like when insects lay like egg sacs along a uh, a small stem. And 1, 2, 3, Philip G is leaving. Goodbye. Thanks for stopping in. Um, so I don't know. I kind of like that look because it suggests that yeah, I need to keep my labels up. I'm doing this for myself, so it's easy to forget that I want to do this as if I was presenting it to a client to at least some degree. Partially because I would like to present this at the next team meeting as well. And so if I have things labeled, that is going to make it easier to do. So we're going to call this like an assembler. And what other labels? Solar leaves. What else are we looking at? Maybe I'll just put the question of fruit conveyor. Yeah. What was I? Oh yeah, this was supposed to be the stem. I think I'm just gonna clear that. Just like I don't often prune my drawings when I do this kind of stuff, but If it doesn't, if it there's a certain threshold by which I consider it like adding. Let's fix up this bad perspective here, because I will move this later to the factory. You know what? I kind of want to design, besides just the shards, some other variants on the actual big tree design itself. But have I fleshed out this enough? The curled under leaves, no, under branches. I don't know. I like that idea though, from a visual perspective. Getting my brush right here. I think I want to move this one up here. The way I can easily. I have basically three brushes that I switch between when I do this stuff. Um, it's kind of fanciful, but it also looks. I want it to look mechanical and kind of more like a kind of crooked dark woods tree. I want it to have kind of like a witchy look to it. I don't want it to be. I don't want the curls to be too perfect. I like the idea that this tree has character to it, and it has this manufacturing tree structure has refined itself as a result of either environmental influences or maybe something that's almost is a little bit like a personality. Maybe it's had problems it had to patch over. It's had different things that grow at different rates depending on the demand for specific types of juice. Maybe the juice in the juicery is a very complex blend, and you want to blend. You want to get a blending of A, 30% A and 15% B and 20% C and all that. And the tree's branches have grown. If this is the A branch and B branch and well, those are the solar panels, but B branch and these are branches too. C branch and D branch, um, all these branches, they might be different sizes because there's different fluctuating demands for the different fruits. So I kind of like that idea. Um, so um, maybe maybe I should have a shaft of the tree that's just actually pretty uniform and regular, both to conserve polys, but also for visual reasons. Is that you want this whole concept, well, you want this whole design to be able to breathe. I maybe it's got like a hexagon, maybe a square, or let's say like a hexagonal trunk, or it's got I'm thinking of like the basalt columns, um, like like these. Maybe the tree has these kind of steppy things like this right here. This kind of a thing. I kind of like that idea. I'm going to try designing a tree like that because there's some interesting things you could do with that. And if I reject the idea, I'll just use it as a background asset for somewhere else. Let me go back to my iPad. Um, Puzzler asks, what if there's part of a trunk that branched off and then bent back together further up? Oh yeah, like loop trees. Um, where the trunk was mineral and the branches became vine. The trunk is a mineral and the branches became vines. Hmm. What do you think about that mean? So you're saying that there is some kind of a grafting, like there's a fundamental design difference between the trunk and the vines. The trunk is maybe it's a different nano tissue, and this is actually two organisms working together symbiotically or something. Yeah, let me play with that. Yeah, so like referring to those basalt columns I just showed. Oh man, I love this auto straight line tool. I've been back and forth on it because in some ways it makes everything else look incongruous, but it can be pretty nice. I tend to end up like for the smaller shapes, kind of mixing it and then kind of going back over it to make it look a little more irregular so it doesn't look bad. I'm bummed out that Photoshop doesn't make it easier to do this kind of thing. This is such a nice feature. Back in the day, my very first digital painting program outside MS Paint was Corel Painter, and they had a really nice straight line drawer too. I was like, um, I have to keep remembering that like I am not in Adobe's target market. So yeah, so I'm riffing on one of the Twitch comments here for having the trunk be mineral and then the branches are like vines. Um, so maybe you've got this kind of a mineral formation, but you've got these pipes that are like clearly running through the mineral. And I'll have to investigate how well Unreal can handle that, but in general, game engines do not like translucency. So and maybe they fan way out. I kind of like. I'm sorry. This is starting to just look like an asset for It's starting to just look like an asset for the game somewhere else. Maybe it's not one of the main trees, but I like riffing on people's ideas. If you have access to chat, like shoot me ideas. And I like to play with them. This is maybe not true to what Puzzlarium on Twitch was thinking, but I'm thinking about like having this type of plant that looks like it's going in through the crystal, and it kind of branches out like a fern, and then maybe instead of these being flat things like fern stuff, these are the assemblers. So they're actually like cylindrical. They look kind of like hot dogs or something, but more elegant. And or like sausages, or cattails. Yeah, okay, yeah, this is a more poetic natural reference than cattails. So on Facebook, Jason M. Allen asks, are you casting on more than one platform? Yes, I am. I'm using a service called Restream. Um, so yeah, I'm casting on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch all at the same time. Um, and so I'm a maximalist. What can I say? I guess I'll reply to you on Facebook. I actually prefer people to engage on Twitch over Facebook. Um, Facebook's chat is not as friendly to work with, and I don't think that if I reply to Facebook chat through my recasting service, I don't think it goes through. At least last time I tried it, um, it uh, it didn't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and reply. Posting a link to Twitch and Facebook is risky. I just did it, but it's probably going to downvote or like down rank my visibility. So back to Twitch chat. What if the top of each pillar had like a bonsai tree on it that turned into a branch? Oh, okay. Okay, the top of, well, that's kind of what I'm doing here. They look more like fronds, but I could definitely do a variation of it where they're more bonsai-ish. Um, this is the this is the beauty of digital here. Um, and I could just basically go in now and um, going to add to the selection and just kind of um, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze and I can't sneeze. All right. Yeah, bonsai trees. So, um, man, bonsai trees are so varied. I went to this like very cool bonsai garden at the San Diego uh, wildlife safari park. And they had like this amazing bonsai garden. If any of my like local friends on Facebook are watching, definitely check out the bonsai garden at that park. It's like when I hear bonsai, I all of a sudden I don't have a platonic ideal of what a bonsai is. Like they're so varied. Um, and so you can basically bonsai pretty much any tree. Um, I and like even like ivy, like leaves, stuff that I didn't think could make a tree shape. Which is it's just very cool, and a lot of them are labeled with like how old they are. They've got ones that are like 400 years old. It's very cool. Um, ah, so I think I see I think I see what like the tree was not a tree. It was a QB trunk support with green biomorphic manufacturing things that make the. Okay, so I think I know what they're getting at. Or what you're getting at. So my thought was that this mineral part is almost like a plant pot, and the different plants are different types of manufacturing, and then like this is very big, like huge. So the track, you know what? This would make the track too long though. If this thing was too huge, you would have to spiral around it, I would think. I guess you would only have to loop around it maybe once and then go up, and then maybe go like do the warehouse or not warehouse, the juicery here. The tree is not a tree, it's a cubic trunk support with green biomorphic manufacturing things that make the berries. You know what? I kind of like that idea of like going a little more artificial with it. I mean, technically, this tree is going to look rather artificial because it's going to have these like little tubes on it, like connecting the different manufacturing shard things. Um, so this is definitely going to look, but I could definitely make it look more artificial, and I think that is worth exploring. This is the time to do it. If I don't, I'll always wonder. And the great thing about this, the fact that like the very nice thing about making one's own game is that you can repurpose a lot of your failed ideas. If I make this and decide that I didn't like it, then I can make it a prop for another level, or even put it somewhere in the background of this level. And if I do really like it and it's my favorite, then I can just repurpose this old tree model. And so, because this is this is a very small team, like I have to make sure not to waste it wherever I can. So this is gonna look a little bit more minerally, but let's maybe I like the idea that it starts off less complicated and gets more complicated as you go up. So smaller and smaller little mechanical arms. Do they maybe they move? Maybe they've got joints here. Like you've got like these joint, the classic like round robot mechanical joint stuff. Um, ooh, it's almost looking like kind of evil. Yee, it's like a killer robot blades or something. Maybe you've got input. So these things have got to like branch off and actually like make the fruits. I'm trying to find a way to bifurcate. Like we're still in the trunk phase. And on one hand, making it more mechanical is good because you can make it lower poly. But I also am still feeling the temptation to make things go like smaller and smaller and smaller. So maybe, I mean, the classic motif here for something that might look both like a mineral and like mechanical is like these kinds of like 45-degree angles, and something that's like trying to think of various platforms. The problem with platforms is that most most of the AI entities in this world wouldn't need them. And all of a sudden, as soon as you add a small platform like a catwalk, to me that reads human. They're these little design shorthands that I have to think of here. I am going to have to get going, um, but this is fun. I like showing this type of design work, um, and it is fun to get suggestions from chat. So I hope to do more of these. Um, and like I think it's really fun to have a dialogue about the process. And as the game gets more developed too, there's more to show. I'm sure like people will have like various suggestions, and so I it'd be cool to have like a platform for taking those and kind of running with them, even just in this like really exploratory phase. Um, I think that'd be rewarding for all parties. So, yeah, to everybody who tuned in, thanks so much. I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.